great to visit with the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to New York, and we thank Sal for giving us your number. We know that you cleared it with him, so we thank you for that. And Carl, we all understand that you, along with Don Newcomb, you anchored the pitching rotation for the Dodgers for the glory years, and they certainly were the glory years. But before we kind of get into your great career, one kind of parallel and one tie-in was, and again, as the gentleman that wrote us the email, we had Mrs. Gil Hodges on, and she spoke so eloquently about Jackie Robinson. And question to you is, because we're going to go over to a graphic where you wrote a book, and it's graphic G8, What I Learned from Jackie Robinson. You actually wrote a book with that subject matter. Tell us, what did you learn from Jackie?
Well, I tell you, if you watch Jackie play, all the obvious things were there. He was an outstanding athlete. He was one of the most exciting players in the game, even today. Base running, and he brought energy to the game. I mean, when Jackie was in the lineup, it was just electric. And but what I learned from Jackie was his patience and how he controlled himself, because he had a gag order by Mr. Rickey that when he took the field or anywhere, he was never, under any circumstances, to retaliate in any way, not only physically, but he couldn't even look like he wanted to challenge somebody who said something terrible to him or tried to spike him, or a pitcher knocking him down. He said, look, the experiment will be a fair fight. Although you could whip everybody on the field, you're strong enough to whip anybody that challenges you, but you got to answer this question. And the question Mr. Rickey put to him, are you strong enough not to fight?
Right.
Well, what I learned and what I saw happen over the next 9 seasons, because I wasn't there in season 1 for Jackie. In '47, when he was a rookie, I was in the minors. But in the spring of the next year, when I met Jackie, and then later joined the Dodgers, the big Dodgers. But that learning process applied to me after baseball, because I had a son, my 4th child born, Jimmy, was born Down syndrome. And all of a sudden, as his life began to unfold, there was no services, no schools, really no acceptance. I began to see the things that Jackie faced in a different way, but in a very parallel way with Jackie's life, because society had kind of pushed people with special needs aside. Families kind of withdrew. Well, Jackie faced all that stuff. So what I learned, I began to apply to my own life, and the patience it took for very slow progress to get programs and services for special needs people. Now we look back, it looks easy, but my son Jimmy now is 53 years old, and when he was 10 years old, I guess, there was no services. It wasn't until he was 12 that special ed came in. And then later, there were sheltered workshops, and it was a slow process. And I can hear Jackie now when they'd say to him, wait till next year. That was always said to us about not being able to beat the Yankees, but wait till next year. Well, Jackie, they kept telling Jackie, don't push, don't be too anxious, just take your time. And Jackie wanted to push. He wanted things to happen, to change. Well, I began to see that in raising my son Jimmy. And so I lived through a parallel story, 9 seasons with Jackie, and then my experience of raising my youngest son, Jimmy, who incidentally has a life of his own now. He's in Special Olympics. He works at Applebee's restaurant. He has tons of friends. That whole culture, just like in Jackie's case, has changed till now. Instead of being pushed out of the mainstream, special needs people are invited back in, and we find as a society we're enriched by having the turnaround attitude to begin to accept people and dignify people, no matter their skin color, their mental capacity. A human being needs to be dignified. And you know what? America's doing a better job of that.
And thanks to people like you. You know, and Jackie, what we're going to do is, and again, Vinny in the control room, we're going to throw you a curveball. Not as nasty a curveball as Carl used to throw, but basically what it is that we're going to go over to G15 because, Carl, you were speaking so eloquently about your relationship with your son and how he's in his fit. We have a beautiful picture of you with your arm around your son. So when we get a chance, we're going to go over to G15, you with your son. And again, it's such a beautiful story that you tell. Our viewers are looking at it now. You have a very relaxed look on your face. You have your son right next to you, Jimmy. You're both wearing that
Dodger blue.
Dodger blue.
Oh, yeah.
That beautiful royal blue. And
That was taken at fantasy camp at Vero Beach, Florida, where we trained for years. Jimmy went with me to camp, and my wife Betty. I did 40-some camps for the Dodgers at Dodgertown, and Jimmy got to be accepted there as he was the poster boy. He got to run the bases, and incidentally, the parallel come back again. He ran the same bases in Vero Beach that Jackie had run years ago when he was breaking in and making a great Hall of Fame career. So, well, Jimmy, I don't want to overplay Jimmy. Jimmy is one of 4 children, so my other 3 kids are doing well. And but in Jimmy's case, he needed special attention, and the whole world needed to look at people with a different makeup in a different way. And so now Jimmy has tons of friends. As I mentioned, he works at Applebee's restaurant. He sets the tables up before they open in the mornings before 11 a.m. And he loves his job. I said to the manager not too long ago, they had some layoffs. I said, hey, I see Jimmy still getting to work. And he said, oh, don't worry about Jimmy. I tell my my other employee, watch Jimmy Erskine. He doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't tell jokes. He just clocks in and goes to work.
we need a few more people with a work ethic like Jimmy in this country. I'll tell you that. And you know what? Kudos to you, Carl, because you are a national and state representative for Indiana for Special Olympics. So what your work does goes beyond your own son, and what you do is so much good for so many people, maybe in with lesser means than you, to help people with the same plight. And you know, it's such a wonderful thing that you tied it back into Jackie. You know what? We're going to go over to G9. Nice picture with you and Jackie, and you're sitting down and you're doing an autograph signing, and the two of you are signing an autograph for a young lady. And you know what? You had a story that you told, and there we go. We got the graphic with your Brooklyn Dodger uniform, and you have a young lady who's thrilled to be getting an autograph, and Jackie's got a nice smile on his face, and we could see that the two of you, how well you bonded with each other. And you had 2 interesting stories. If you could tell the first one quickly, when you were a minor leaguer, you don't know if you're going to make it. You're going out there, you're throwing a game against the big club right down in Florida.
Right. Yeah, we went from AA at Fort Worth, Texas. I was a Dodger affiliate, and the big club in the spring of '48 came through to play their affiliate, and I got to pitch. I was only in my 2nd year. I just had 1 season, but I pitched very well that day against the Dodgers for about 5 or 6 innings. When the game was over, I heard a voice, where's Erskine? And my teammates in the Fort Worth dugout said, hey, Carl. And it was Jackie Robinson, who had come across the field from the Dodger dugout. And I stepped out onto the playing field with Jackie and met him for the first time. She shook my hand, and he said, young man, you're not going to be in this league very long. I hit against you twice today, and you're going to be a Dodger before you know it.
Wow.
Boy, what a boost that was to a kid.
Hey, you know what? Speaking about a boost, we're going to go over to our next graphic. And we all know that you threw 2 no-hitters. Your first one was against the Chicago Cubs. And I guess the first of anything is always a thrill. But Carl, if you will, tell us the tie-in with the second no-hitter that's very near and dear to your heart. Not only was that was it at beloved Ebbets Field? And we got a graphic of you making that 0 no-hitter. You're winking, and we got the reporters around you with the cigarettes dangling from their mouth. We got a nice graphic of that. But tell us about the tie-in with Jackie that day when you threw that no-hitter.
Well, you know, it was 1956, so Jackie and I had both been in the league for a while, and Jackie was older. And I got to the ballpark. I saw a newspaper open on one of the trunks, and it said the Dodgers are over the hill. This was Saturday, May the 12th. It was game of the week, and I'd had a cortisone shot in my shoulder the night before because I was having lots of arm trouble. And so I saw that, but the sub-headline said, "And Erskine can't win with the garbage he's been throwing." And it also mentioned Campy, that Campy was too old. So he said the Dodgers are over the hill. That was Tom Sheehan, who was the chief scout for the Giants. Well, anyway, I was pretty tense that day because I almost asked Alston for another day's rest when he handed me the warm-up ball, but I couldn't hand it back to him. So I went out, and I'll tell you what, you talk about only having a prayer. That's about what I felt like. That's about all I had. But anyway, the game started, and I was getting them out pretty good. We finally scored in the middle of the game, and so I got to the ninth inning, and lo and behold, Alvin Dark was the last hitter. When he bounced out to me for the end of the game, I pitched a no-hitter. And Jackie had saved the no-hitter in the fifth inning when Mays hit a shot, and Jackie was playing third base. He made a fantastic pickup of a ball that should have gone through the hole for a hit. He saved the no-hitter and threw Mays out easy.
Wow,
so when I got the final out, Jackie rushes from third base to the mound, and he shakes my hand. Then he turns and runs back toward the foul line on the third base side where the Giant dugout was, and Tom Sheehan had been seated in the Giant box right by the dugout. And Jackie pulled that article out of his pocket, and he waved it at the Giant bench and Tom Sheehan and said, "How you like that garbage?" Wow. And that was how intense Jackie was. He was such a competitor.
Wow, that's a good
story. That was a good story.
That's a great story. And the thing with our fans are saying, wow, Jackie's playing third base that day. You know, we think of him as a second baseman, but
right.
The passion. There's so many layers to that story, Carl. Thanks for sharing that. The highlight of everybody, our producer, Don O'Berg, when he heard that you were our special guest tonight, he was glowing because he grew up a Brooklyn Dodger fan. We're going to go over to the high point of all high points. You mentioned it before, G12. We're a little bit out of order. We're going to go over to G12, and you used the expression before. Wait till next year. That was the lament, Carl. That was the lament. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. But 1955. Here's the headline of the Daily News. This is next year.
You got
That's a great headline.
Carl, just tell us when you were celebrating on the field in 1955, what's going through your mind?
Well, let me tell you, just preceding that, the Dodgers had been in the World Series while I was there in 49, 52, 53. We had not won a series. And there had been series before I got there that the Dodgers didn't win. But we are so pent up inside for our fans. These loyal fans in Brooklyn had stayed with us. We had some great teams. The 52 Dodgers and the 53 Dodgers, they had some of the greatest numbers that you ever want to see on a team. I mean, this team was outstanding, but we did not win the series. So it was a painful thing to come back each year and not bring that ring back to Brooklyn. But in 55, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, we just want to say for our viewers, the Dodgers did not win in 52 and 53, but at no fault of yours. Let's just take a gander at your stats. 52, 14 and 6, 2.70 ERA, 206 innings. 53, 20 and 6, Carl, 246 innings. 54. 18 wins. I mean, you put a string together that's
$15 million a year today.
Any worries about a pitch count with you and innings? I mean,
no, the pitch count's probably important, but I think it's a good tool, but I think they lean on it too much. And I tell you, if I was managing, I would never take out my starting pitcher. He's throwing a 3-hitter and he gets the 7th inning. He's going to finish for me, but. But I think some managers do that now more than they used to.
Hey, you know what, Carl? I'm going to put both my brother, who's on screen, and Don Oberg, our producer, who's off screen. I'm going to put them both on the spot, and I'm going to ask them a question. Anthony, 1955, when the Dodgers finally do it, what's your memory?
Well, I was just a little toddler, Carl, and I didn't know what was going on. I never heard. It was like New Year's Eve, with fireworks going off, car horns, parades, people just, milling in the street. I never saw such a joyous, impromptu celebration. It was just, I was like a 5-year-old kid, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but it was a great moment.
Well, I don't think Brooklyn slept for a week or so.
I think you're right.
I don't think everybody ever went to bed.
Donnie, what about yourself?
I was walking home from school, and I was about a half a block from my house, and I heard that they won, and I started jumping up in the street like a sicko. And it was just a great time.
It really was.
That's beautiful.
There's a story that's never been told actually about that series. We all jumped on Padres when he got the last out. We went on the field, and we whooped out on the field, jumped up and down, and cheered, and we were on Yankee territory. It made it sweeter than ever. But we then went up the runway into the clubhouse, and I knew this. I knew it for years, and I never had told it the story. I hadn't even told my wife. But when we went up the runway into the visitors' clubhouse at Yankee Stadium, the celebration didn't start right away. There was a kind of a quiet moment or two in there, just 2 or 3 minutes, when there was almost a reverence to the feeling. We had finally achieved the unachievable, and we finally got it. And I think this great team, I looked at Pee Wee. He was very sober. Maybe a tear in his eye. I had a lump in my throat. And Roger Craig, who was a rookie, told me only recently, he says, without me prompting him at all, he said, you remember that when we went up into the clubhouse? He says, I looked at you guys. He said, Pee Wee had a tear in his eye. And Jackie, and you. I said, did you see that, Roger? He said, I did. And I said, isn't that amazing? Because somehow that was a moment of, I don't know, gratitude beyond expression. And we finally achieved it. And the bottles didn't start popping for 2 or 3 minutes after we went into the clubhouse. That was one of the most beautiful experiences of my whole career.
Wow,
That's a good story.
Yeah, you see this great team humbled by this success, and they didn't cheer right away. They didn't shout right away. They had this moment of absolute, very deep and soul-stirring experience. But I love that ring. I look at it every now and then.
I don't blame you.
I would.
And you know what? From tears of joy, we're going to go over to our next graphic, G13. From tears of joy to broken-hearted Brooklyn fans, millions of them, because you couldn't believe it. Robert Moses, you figure it's a political thing going back and forth. And talking about street signs, we got a tie-in with that. Yeah, how's this for a street sign, ladies and gentlemen? Leaving Brooklyn, forget about it. Well, the Brooklyn Dodgers will leave in Brooklyn. And Carl, back in the day, you guys were singing for your supper. You were playing on one-year contracts, so you probably didn't even have time to absorb it, but you were just told, hey guys, pack up and you're moving to the West Coast, right?
Well, this was rumored for a long time. I was player representative for a number of years with the Dodgers, and Mr. O'Malley used to bring me in his office occasionally and talk to me about some things of the game and so on. But when he was negotiating to try to stay in Brooklyn, the team was not privy to any of that. We didn't get updates from the Dodger office. Only we read in the paper and what we heard. So we didn't know anything until '57. It was finally announced that the deal had been cut, and Mr. O'Malley had accepted the large tract of ground in Los Angeles, and that the Dodgers, in fact, were going to move to Los Angeles. But that was in 1957. But we went to spring training in 1958, and it was the same place we'd trained for years, since '48. And so nothing was different. And we went through spring training, and when the final day came, instead of starting north the way we always had done, usually playing the Braves in Mobile and coming up to Atlanta and on to Nashville, playing our way north to open the season in New York. Instead of that, we walked over to the small airport at Vero Beach, Florida, boarded the big Dodger jet, and flew to the West Coast. That's when it really hit the team. That we're done with the East Coast. The Brooklyn years are behind us. This is a whole new territory going to the West Coast. So the players actually didn't get the impact of that, and Campy had been injured that winter, so he wasn't with us. Jackie had retired. This was a sobering time for the team because we saw at that era it was now absolutely over.
Wow. Yeah, you know, when the Dodgers moved to LA, Anthony, I know you used to listen on your transistor radio as best you can, but with the time, you know, with the time difference, it was so hard. You know, you're a Renaissance man in a lot of ways, Carl. You look at your resume, president of a bank. Not many baseball players can say that. I'm going to ask you, as a matter of fact, to put you on the spot, if we can go over to G14. And I found a graphic of you playing, looks like the harmonica, at half court of the Indiana Pacers NBA basketball game. So I'm going to just ask you.
Yeah, right.
What's up with that?
Do you have that? Do you have that harmonica handy? And could you just give us a little sampling of your musical stylings?
Oh boy, come on. Well, you know, I was a kid. I played harmonica a little bit, and always carried one with me on the road. But I roomed with Duke Snider, and I never played when Duke was in the room. And I just played for fun. So I never really thought of myself as being much of a player. But I got to playing with a group of guys here at my hometown, and then at fantasy camp, I got to playing the national anthem before our big game every year at the end of the camp when the staff would play the campers. And so yeah, I played the national anthem at Dodger Stadium I think 4 times, and at the NBA and several places. It's just a hobby of mine. It's fun. Now, when the Brooklyn Nets played their first game in Indiana last year, they asked me to come and play the national anthem because Brooklyn was in town. Cool. So that was a big night for me.
Well, Donnie and Anthony, I think if we give Carl a big round of applause and encourage him, I think maybe we can kind of coerce him into just a little bit. Okay, what do you think? Carl, come on, give us. Let's. What? Wow. Whoa!
Great job.
How about that?
That's excellent.
How about a little blues?
Can CC Sabathia do that? No way.
I could have named that tune in 3 notes.
Hey, you know, Carl, just to kind of prove the kind of life that you led, and you've led it with dignity and the way you've handled yourself, I would just throw this question out to our viewers. And we're going to go over to graphic G16. And my question is, how many people can you think of that have a statue in their honor? And there we have it. And it was to commemorate the accomplishments, both as a Dodger and as a citizen.
Where is that?
It's a 6-foot bronze statue, and it was erected in front of Carl D. Erskine Rehab and Sports Medical Center. Also, Erskine donated part of his land to the community school. And Carl, I mean, we salute you.
That's in Indiana?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are too kind. I look at it the other way. I get up in the morning, and you know, I was a skinny kid. I grew up in a very modest home in a nice Midwestern town of Anderson, Indiana. I had a very average life in school. I was not an A student, no honor rolls for me. I played basketball in Indiana. I was, in fact, known better for basketball. And than baseball. But I tell you what, I was fortunate to sign with the Dodgers. I had a chance to sign with other teams, but the Dodgers had scouted me in high school. They treated me really fair, and I was impressed with the Dodger organization, and got to come to New York as a high school kid and work out at Ebbets Field one time. All that made me want desperately to play for the Dodgers. Now, they weren't a winning team in those years. You know, they were maybe a now and then win, but it wasn't the winning. It was something about the way I was treated and the experience of coming to Ebbets Field as a high school kid and getting to work out with the Dodgers. So when I got out of the Navy, I was still 19 years old because I got into war late and didn't stay in too long. So I signed, even though the Braves were badgering me, the Phillies, Pittsburgh, the Red Sox were all giving me chances to sign. I kept telling Mr. Rickey, I don't want to sign. I don't want to sign with anybody but the Dodgers. So he finally signed me, and that was the start of a great decision to go with a team that finally was built into a tremendous winning team, and really a team made up of some of the great individuals that I ever met.
You're not kidding. You are truly the boys of summer. You and Roy Campanella, Carl Furillo, Hodges, who we spoke about,
Right.
Wee Reese, Jackie, who we waxed poetic about, Duke Snider and everything. Hey, do you remember what you did with your $9,768, your winning share for the World Series?
Yeah, you know what? I was at a dinner with Joe Torre. Well, he was still managing the Yankees, and they had just won the series and got a check for $340,000 each. Mm-hmm. That was a player's share. So I said to Joe Torre, I said, Joe, that's a pretty nice check. That's a six-figure check. And he said, oh, yeah. And I said, well, don't feel sorry for me. In '55, we won a series, and I got a six-figure check, too. $9,728.21.
21 cents.
That's how you look at it, right?
That's good. Carl, we want to thank you for coming on the show. And just with the few minutes that we spent with you, you're a living legend with Brooklyn fans. I mean, you bring a smile to all Brooklyn Dodgers' face. But you know what? I'm going to harken back to something that Jackie Robinson said. It's a famous quote. He said, a life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives.
Right.
And, you know, those are Jackie Robinson's words. And you know what? When we look at your resume, Carl, and again, you're much too modest and too humble to point that out, but you served in the Navy. You broke down barriers. You helped Jackie break the color barrier. You broke down barriers with and for your son Jimmy with special needs, with all of the work that you do in the Special Olympics. You're a hero in every sense of the word, battlefield and the ball field, on and off the field. And the way you carried yourself with class and dignity, you know what? That statue of you is there for good reason,
deserved.
And so is the sign on this on the Belt Parkway. Carl, we thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. And as they said in Brooklyn, Oisk, you're the best.
You're the best.
And thank you so much for joining us tonight, Carl Erskine.
Let me tell you, you know, for you guys to help me recall and the feeling of being a Brooklyn player, living in the neighborhoods, and being a part of that scene at that time, I'm very grateful, and I'm so grateful at my time. You know, I'm going to turn 87 next month.
God bless
and
you.
I was born in 1926. So was Duke. So was Newcomb. So was Branca. There were about 5 or 6 of us, all born in 1926. So we kind of grew up together, and our families grew up together. So that's rich. You can't buy that.
You can't buy that. You're right.
You can't buy an experience I've had tonight. Listen to you guys and the happiness when you think about the Brooklyn days. So thank you for calling me.
Thank you, Carl. You're a gentleman, and thank you. We're going to make you a copy of it, and we're going to send it to you. And all the best, and thank you once again. The great Carl Erskine.
Wow. You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.